Hey folks, Jim Wallace here, Executive Director of Gun Owners Action League. I thought I would chat with you today about so-called guidance from Chapter 135 that's supposed to come from the Executive Office of Public Safety. Now, we have seen 3 guidance letters, if you want to call them that, come from the Secretary. But the last one was 6 months ago and really did not include anything of significance that would guide us on how we are supposed to understand this new law. Some of the last guidance in number 3 really does not actually represent the law itself, and they're starting to pick and choose and sort of create what they want it to say rather than what it actually says. Now, the Firearms Control Advisory Board has been meeting since November? And we haven't gotten a ton of work done. There has been some work done. One of the things that happened was when we filed a lawsuit against the rifle and shotgun testing and roster requirements, within a very short time, the Firearm Control Advisory Board subcommittee decided that the context of that particular testing section did not match with long guns, and therefore they weren't going to include long guns. So while that's a win for us, after we filed a lawsuit, we still had to spend the money to do that. The same thing happened with the training. We had spent all the money to file a court action on that, and then within a short time of filing it, the legislature put in an amendment to an innocuous piece of legislation to put the training requirements off for, I think, 18 months or until the state police got this stuff together. Since then, not much. There have been, matter of fact, the long gun issue, even though the subcommittee on the Firearms Control Advisory Board issued a memo to the secretary, and we are told that the secretary has approved it. We don't have anything in writing from the secretary, which is frustrating to say the least. Other things have come up during meetings that I have brought up. For instance, the black powder ammunition confusion. And there doesn't seem to be any energy to answer that question. I then brought up questions about pistol frames, because if long guns did not meet the drop testing requirements and the accuracy requirements or whatever, then what are they going to do with actual frames of pistols? And we were pretty much told that because they're not included, we supposedly could sell and buy frames for handguns that were not on the approved roster. But again, nothing really in writing from the secretary. So I think what we're seeing here is a hesitation from the state to pretty much put out any more guidance on official letterhead, if you want to call it that, because every time they do, they probably in their eyes, they weaken the law. And that's fine with us, but that's not what the goal of the government is right now. I do have to say, I love some of these folks on the internet that well, basically, hammer goal that we are somehow working with the government to make these laws enforceable. Well, not even close. We are trying to figure out how to advise our members and supporters. Our job is to try to keep you out of trouble and out of jail. So if you can better understand the laws, hopefully that can happen. Even right now, though, there are cases we'll talk about later that are coming up of people actually following the law and still being charged and brought to court. So I'm not sure how the future's going to play out as far as sorting this thing out and getting further guidance from the state. It just doesn't seem like they have any interest in doing that anymore. We will continue to do our best, and obviously working with all of our attorneys across the state and even across the country as we continue with litigation, which we've covered in great detail. But the other problem with litigation is if there is no real understanding of the law, it's kind of difficult to fight. And you have to wait until somebody is charged with something almost to actually bring it to court. Now, we're not going to hesitate to do that when we have the opportunity, and there's more litigation coming. And maybe that's why they're holding off any further guidance, because it opens it up to litigation, and they don't want to give us any evidence to work with, I guess. And further, it's gonna be difficult for those who want to follow the law, or at least try to follow the law, to do so. And moving forward, well, we're going to try our best, folks, and we'll get information out as we can. The frame situation is interesting because a firearms retailer actually hired one of our attorneys, or an attorney we work with, to give him something in writing, and he did. And we're going to post that soon, that basically, in his opinion, that from everything he's read from the state, that it's in fact legal to sell frames of handguns that aren't on the roster. Now, why the state just won't come out and say that? Again, I think it's because every time they put out guidance, they think they're weakening the law. So, anyway, folks, just wanted to give you a little heads up on the frustration we're facing and you're facing on guidance and getting answers about Chapter 130. I mean, we are, 8 months past Chapter 135 becoming a law, and virtually have no answers. And again, the answers we are getting aren't necessarily reflecting the law as it's written. But anyway, folks, hang in there. We will continue to do our best at every angle, litigation, legislation, regulation, and that stuff's coming up. And we will continue to work on this on your behalf, and thank you for all your support.